Right then. So power and how it can corrupt. It's
Yeah.
kind of a classic theme, right?
Yeah, it's been explored for centuries, hasn't it?
But today we're going to look at it from a slightly different angle.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going deep with this article from Pilar Enjamio. She's a psychologist,
Right.
and it's in the Oki News Review. And she frames this whole thing about abuse of power as, get this, like an addiction.
Yeah, it's a fascinating take, isn't it? Because we tend to think of addiction in relation to substances, but Enjamio is suggesting that for some people, power itself can become that substance, the thing they crave and can't control.
And that just completely changes how we think about those in power who abuse it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because it moves us away from simplistic explanations like they're just bad people and forces us to consider these deeper psychological factors that might be driving their behavior.
Enjamio calls it political hypocrisy, right?
Sure.
He does, yeah. And she even says, oh gosh, where is it? The so-called political hypocrisy of defending a woman's consent but doing the opposite in real life is not unique to one political party. And then she finishes with let those without sin cast the first stone.
It's a
Which-
powerful stuff.
It kind of like stops you in your tracks, doesn't it?
It does, and it really underscores the point that this isn't about pointing fingers at any particular group. It's about recognizing that this kind of hypocrisy, this disconnect between words and actions, is something we need to be vigilant about across the board.
So how do we do that then? Like, where do we even start?
Well, I think Enjamio provides some really helpful insights there. For example, she emphasizes the importance of understanding the immense fear that victims of abuse often experience.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
They might be afraid of the abuser, obviously, but also of the potential backlash from coming forward, of not being believed, of their careers being damaged. And this fear can be paralyzing. It can prevent people from speaking out. It's just awful. So what can we do? Like, how can we as a society do better? Create a space where victims do feel safe coming forward.
That's the key, isn't it? It's about fostering a culture of belief, of support, where victims know they will be heard and taken seriously. And that means challenging those who try to dismiss or discredit their experiences. It means holding abusers accountable. And it means creating systems where victims can report abuse safely and confidentially.
You know, Enjamio doesn't just focus on the victim. She also goes deep into the psychology behind the abusers themselves, right? And she uses the word perversion, which, that's not a word you hear every day.
No, it's not. And it's definitely a strong word, but I think she uses it very deliberately. She's trying to get at the potential psychological roots of this kind of abuse, the idea that for some people, the very act of abusing power can be a source of, a kind of twisted pleasure or gratification.
So in a way, it's not just about the power itself, it's about the act of abusing it. Exactly. It's about the control, the domination, the feeling of superiority that comes from inflicting harm on another person.
I mean, that's pretty disturbing, isn't it?
It is. And she also talks about this idea that some abusers might be driven by a need to become the person who once rejected them, which, that's a whole other layer of complexity.
Okay, how so? What does that mean, become the person?
Well, think about it this way. Let's say someone has experienced significant rejection or humiliation in their past, maybe from a parent, a teacher, whoever.
Okay, right.
And Enjamio suggests that for some individuals, attaining power can become a way to sort of reverse that rejection,
Yeah.
To become the one in control, to dominate the very person or situation that once made them feel powerless.
So they're almost trying to, rewrite their past or something.
In a sense, yes. And this raises all sorts of questions, right? Like, how do we deal with that?
And it kind of makes it even harder to hold them accountable, doesn't it? Because if it's rooted in something so deep, it's not like they can just snap out of it.
Exactly. And this is where Enjamio's perspective becomes really challenging because she acknowledges that some abusers might genuinely seek help. They might go to therapy, try to address these underlying issues. But she's also very clear that seeking help doesn't negate the need for accountability, for a thorough investigation and legal process.
So it's not a get-out-of-jail-free card.
No, not at all. Justice still needs to be served, and I think that's an important distinction to make.
Yeah. She also talks about the importance of relying on actual experts, not just anyone with an opinion, right?
Yeah.
She really emphasizes the qualifications piece.
She does, and I think that's crucial, especially in situations as complex and sensitive as this. We need to be discerning about the information we consume to make sure we're listening to people who have the knowledge and expertise to guide us.
So, okay, let's bring this home for our listeners. What are the key takeaways here?
Well, I think Enjamio's work really highlights the importance of understanding the psychology behind abuse of power. It's not just about individual bad actors. It's about recognizing that there are often deeper patterns at play, these complex psychological factors that can drive this kind of behavior.
So in a way, it's less about condemning individuals and more about understanding the problem itself.
Right, and I think that understanding is crucial if we want to prevent future harm. If abuse of power often stems from these deep psychological issues, how can we, as a society, address those issues proactively? How can we create healthier power dynamics and support systems that truly protect the vulnerable?
That's a huge question, isn't it?
It is, but it's a question we need to be asking ourselves if we want to create a world where abuse of power becomes less and less common.
So much to think about. And for those who want to dive even deeper, we definitely encourage you to check out Njamio's full article. It's in the Oki News Review.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a read.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning into this deep dive. Be sure to check out our other content online. We're on YouTube, iVox, and on the web. We'll catch you in the next one.
See you then.